Greetings to you, Science, and allow me to welcome you back on this platform, a time of prayer. And today is day number 4 in our prayer week, a week leading to a new month, in this case, the month of June. And today our focus is on prayer for wisdom. Today our focus is on prayer for wisdom. And when we talk of prayer for wisdom, we are talking of praying for the spirit of discernment and grace for making sound decisions in life. We're praying for the spirit of discernment and grace for making sound decisions in life. And our primary text is from James chapter number 1, verse number 5. James chapter number 1, verse number 5. But when you look at James chapter number 1, from verse number 1 to verse number 8, the context around this passage of the text is talking of someone who is going through trials, or someone who is faced with troubles of any kind or of many kinds. That's why from verse number 2, James goes on to say, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, wherever you face trials of any kind or of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith is what produces perseverance." Verse number 4 then says, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." Then verse number 5, which is our primary text, then verse number 5 then comes in and says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God." If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Remember, the context of this passage is someone who is going through a trial, or someone who is faced with troubles of many kinds. Yeah, that's the context. And then James goes on to say, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. Can you see that there's a connection between verse number 4 and verse number 5? Verse number 4, it says, let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be complete, mature, lacking nothing. And then verse number 5 starts by saying, if any lacks wisdom. So what James is doing, he is building up on the idea or the thought of lack. That's why he's saying, let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature, complete, lacking nothing. Verse number 5 then says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. So the context is that whenever you are going through a time of trial or a challenging time, what you need is wisdom. You cannot afford to lack wisdom. I believe this is the concern or the burden of James, that whenever you're going through a challenging time, you should not lack wisdom. What then is wisdom? Wisdom is the power that enables you and I to say and to do the right thing at the right time. That is wisdom. It is the power that enables you and I, number 1, to say, and then number 2, to do the right thing at the right time in whatever you're going through. So in other words, James is saying, if any of you does not know how to meet any particular problem, there is a need for you to ask from God. That is what he is calling wisdom. Now you notice that there are two components of wisdom. There are two components of wisdom that we are going to use in our prayer today. Number 1 is discernment. The first component of wisdom is discernment. Now, discernment is in the realm of knowing. Discernment is in the realm of knowing. You need to know the spirit that is at work in whatever you're going through, whether it is of God or whether it is of the devil. So discernment, number 1, is in the realm of knowing. Number 2, the second component of wisdom is decision making. It is decision making. This is about what you say and what you do. That's why we're saying you need to say and to do the right thing at the right time. And this is what will bring you and I to the knowledge of God's plans and purposes, and now giving you the ability now to live accordingly. When that happens, that is wisdom. But look at it here. James is very clear that the source of wisdom is God. In other words, he's saying this kind of wisdom is God-given. And if it is God-given, it means that it is obtainable only through prayer in faith. Only through prayer and faith. That's why when you read from verse number verse number 6 going down, James begins to talk about the need for you to have faith, not to be double-minded. Yeah, not to doubt. Why? Because this kind of wisdom is obtainable only through prayer in faith. Yeah, so he is very clear, the source of wisdom, it is God-given. That's why Proverbs chapter number 2, verse number 6, it says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding." From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And you know what? God is ready to give. That's why James is saying, ask, because God is ready to give. And it is this readiness of God to give us wisdom that ought to become our motive to prayer. That ought to become what? Our motive to prayer. He is ready to give because he is the source of that wisdom. The Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Jesus Christ is a perfect example of this. When he was going through a time of trial in what is known as the temptation in the wilderness, he goes on to say that men shall not live by bread alone, but men shall live by every word that comes from the mouth of God. And Proverbs is saying, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And this is what captures very well the spirit of wisdom, when you know what to do and what to say at the right time and in the right place. That is wisdom. So today we want to take time to pray for the spirit of discernment and for grace in making sound decisions in life. I don't know what you're going through, or I don't know what your family may be going through, but today we want to pray for wisdom over that situation. Why? Because the most critical thing that you need whenever you are faced with trials or challenges of any kind, it is wisdom. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously, who gives liberally, ungrudgingly. That is the God that we serve. So may God bless you. May God keep you until we meet again. This is Pastor Danny.